Hello, my name is Desmond Lynch. I'm 26 years old and I'm a filmmaker. Today I am doing the director's commentary for my short film, Showtime. So let's begin watching the film. So the first scene coming up is the exteriors. The exteriors for me personally were the more stressful aspect of the filmmaking experience, just because, well, like, we just didn't have any money, so we couldn't, like, close off a street, like close off a road, like make sure people didn't come out of their houses, that type of thing. So it was just classic guerrilla filmmaking type of stuff, and it was just chaotic. I remember the night we filmed it was a Sunday, and the road was especially busy. So yeah, it was just like, we'd have to cut a take like midway through just to clear the road and like maintain safety for the cast and crew. It was very annoying. It was only took us about maybe 2-3 hours, but it was also cold as well. Cold March in 2023, I believe. So yeah, based on a true story, that is true. Well, true stories, but difficult. But yeah. So I think we did that. It was the first take of the bottle opening. I always like that because I think, like, the bottle opening of the fridge kind of shows a lot of character, the grittiness of Camilla and who she is. Yeah, that's a good shot. And that's a new location. So that window is not in the living room; it's in the bedroom. We had to swap it out just because in the story it's supposed to be like one big room, but of course in that location it isn't, because the living room in question didn't have like a window looking out on the street. So we had to cheat it to make it look like it was the same room, but it was in actuality two different rooms. So in the background you see our lovely art director Lucy put up some like very shitty curtains and also a blanket just to cover up a cabinet that we just couldn't move because there was just no space to move it, and I had a bunch of stuff in it anyway, and it was like, well, it would have been like too time consuming to move, so we had to just cover it up with a blanket. So flashing lights, red and blue. The top cars in the province, like, they're just blue lights. So the red and blue doesn't necessarily isn't the most realistic, but I felt like it translates better for international audiences who their own respective countries have red and blue lights, and also people when they see it they understand what that's supposed to mean, so it's good. Yeah, and then so this one was the first day we shot. I think we did about like 3 different shots here. So we did medium shot, medium close up, and then close up. And the big thing I was always stressing to my editor Mercer was I wanted to cut on movement, because I just felt it added an energy to the scene that we couldn't really present just because it was like a very static scene. So he's only like sitting by the window looking outside of a window, so if it was just like one big long take, it would get very visually boring very, very quickly. And even like though the performance is good, I think visually it wouldn't have been as compelling as if we cut back from various different pieces of coverage. So like being able to cut on movement on like the slightest things, like head movements, or like even like the movement of a bottle, or like small stuff like that, kind of adds a lot of energy to the scene, which was at in the first few cuts a wee bit lacking. Oh, this is where the film gets a little weird. So yeah, sound design was one of the big creative challenges for this film. So it was, first off, we had to get a perfect sound on the production, which I think Patel and Mercer knocked it out of the park, as they always do. And I'd work alongside in post production my good friend Justinus, the dialogue editor, who basically fixed all the mistakes I made in my initial sound edit. And the big thing we were trying to achieve was we weren't necessarily striving for realism. It was, if anything, it was like it's a mix, almost absurdist to a degree. It's very like based on vibes, if anything. So we wanted this part of dialogue to have more impact. So initially, I wanted just to take away all like sound effects, all like the chaos from what's happening outside. So no more like screams, no more cop cars, no more voices or scream or any of that stuff, and just have silence. And I was even like saying to Justinas about like removing room tone and atmos like in entirety, and just like using the solo like boom audio of that performance. But he pushed back on it and just said it would be too it'd be too like surreal. It's almost like it was recorded in a vacuum, if that makes sense. Having like something very like faint, very like just like something like quiet, just to imply the presence of the room. That was like one of the big like things he was pushing for, just because like we didn't want that. Well, he didn't want that vacuum effect, just because it would have felt too weird, which I think that was like one of the only creative disagreements we had. But like I think he knew more about sound than me, so I just took his word for it. Yeah, Onia's great in this scene. I think we did a bunch of rehearsals in pre-production. She was in Wexford, I'm in Belfast, obviously, so it was just Zoom. So we pretty much like rehearsed almost all the dialogue for the scene, for the film itself. So it was this scene and the corridor scene. We pretty much like had a nail down, just because for almost the entire film it's just her. So if we don't get it right, it's gonna be it'll fall flat. Yeah. Good thing I like Orny, of course, like she is theater trained, so that she's used to doing these monologues and like stuff like that. And the big thing is like in the film nothing really happens. Like again, she's just like watching something off screen happen, and what really tells the story is just like her changing mood, and like how she goes from like tired to like a bit more excited, having fun. And we learn about her by like watching like what's happening from outside, and then like by the end like she kind of just like crumbles apart, just because her life's a bit of a mess, and it's not ideal, and she's not necessarily a good person. And yeah, she's one of those people you kind of like, but you also at the same time don't like. And yeah, she's very divisive, I think. Yep, and there's Sean McConville, the legend. God, he looks so high. Yeah, so yeah, Sean was the one and only choice for Kenny, just because, look at him. It's just like he just works on so many levels. I think he's like known people like this, and I think he has a good voice for it as well. It's like low and in my mind a wee bit posh, just because he's from South Belfast, and I think that for the local people here, I think that contrasts well with Camilla, who's from West, and Sean, who's from South, so it kind of sounds more interesting. This mold, I always forget that's there. That's Lucy put that up. So there's like fake mold in the corners, and the left hand corner up there alongside some boxes, and she put up like this red Chinese calendar as well. I think that was like one of the big things we liked. She stressed me about like putting up like some like color boards and stuff like that, just like to get the lighting, and like get like props that would fit into the aesthetic of the art department, and like it would look good on screen. So it's a lot of like natural like reds and stuff like that, like the see that like fire blanket box. So, and then there's like a menu on there as well. So yeah, so two lenses we used for this, which was the 75 millimeter, so you stick the very tight close-ups. We had to use that because on our 25, or yeah, I think it was 25 coverage of the scene. I think Sean, whenever he was going ham on that fridge door, he accidentally bumped into Tom's camera and nearly knocked it out of his hands. So I think Tom was like, "Oh, that was a bad idea," and so he took a step back, so he wasn't standing like right beside Sean. He switched to the 75, so he get like a very tight close up on Anya without like breaking his camera from Sean's antics. And this is the final scene of the film, which is like my personal favorite, just because, well, it speaks for itself. It just looks beautiful. It's like acted wonderfully, and I think everything just works. This one was one of the more difficult things to shoot, just because like it was the ending. We had to get it right, and I think we did 14 takes of this one shot. I remember that day. This was like our second day, and like we of course we done like rehearsing and pre-production. Remember, like we woke up early and like me and Anya were just like in the corridor. I had like my we DSLR, because that's how we did the rehearsals. Like I like watched her view via the viewfinder and the camera, and then like she was like performing to that camera while I was watching. And like on the day, like initially I just thought like it was just gonna be like one big static wide, and she'd move about. She'd just stand in the center and she'd just talk to the camera. But like on the day, I thought like visually that'll just be a bit static, a bit boring. So I felt like she moved about, it'll be like a lot more visually interesting. So we had to figure out like okay, like so she comes out the kitchen door and then just like stands there for a while, and then she like moves over to the wall, and then she's like, why is she moving up to the wall? And I was like, oh, like we'll just play with the wallpaper, I guess. And like that's what she did. And then she'll move over to this wee door area just to stand there for a while and talk to the camera again, and then she'll just move out into the center and talk to the camera again, and then move up the stairs, and then that's the scene. That's the blocking. It looks good, and we basically had to like block it out in a way where it's like, oh, it looks cool, but also like makes sense for the character to move like that. And so we did that like a bunch of times before any of the crew showed up. And then like once the crew showed up, I think like Tom and Patrick, the camera people, had to sort out a lot of stuff in regards to lighting and all that nonsense. So I think like Lucy like dressed the entire thing like a day or two before like we shot it. So I think it was almost all of it was ready. But I think it was just like a tough shot to get right, just because again like the one big master of dynamic shot, plus it's the final monologue, so like performance wise it had to be right. So I think we just had to do it like 14 times to get it right. And also like I was very specific with what I wanted, and like Anya of course was like initially very goal oriented. I think like when I was talking to her in our interview, she said like one of the things like she was trying to do is like get the tears to come, just like to prove to herself that she could do it. And I think like maybe like on take 6 or 7 we got those tears, and then after that I think we felt we could do more stuff. And I think it got to the point where like take 13 I still wasn't happy. We got some decent stuff, but it was nothing I felt was like, okay, this is how we end the movie. So like on take 14 I said, look, Anya, this is like the last take we're doing, so whatever you want to do, just do it. And then like she went in with that energy, and like she just knocked it out of the park, and that's the end of the movie. And she walks away. Yeah, and that's Showtime. A very bleak, very sad, but also very unfortunately true movie about just like living in this day of age and like dealing with all the nonsense that has to do with what people have to put up with to get by and stuff like that. But anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the film. This is the ending of my behind the scenes production series on the making of the short film. There's going to be more projects down the line. I'm hoping to make The Witch in the Heart of Stone this year. Finishing post production on my short film God's Country. Hopefully that'll be out on a festival circuit by the end of the year as well. I'm in the midst of pre-production or development, that is, of my feature film, which I hope to get made in a couple of years' time. So yeah, hopefully it all works out. But again, thanks for listening. Hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.